"What do you want me to say?" he asks the locker room like a man asking a mirror. Then he says the thing everyone in the building already knows: "Finish the fucking game." It's a brutal sentence, short, jagged, the kind of profanity that's not about shock value, but about a throat-tight, angry truth. Tonight in Cincinnati, the Bengals scored enough points to win. They engineered a near-miraculous comeback. They pulled a Houdini act on momentum and then, in the space of 4 plays, handed everything back to the Bears. The result wasn't tidy. It was 47-42 Chicago, and a locker room that smells like regret. You can feel the narrative in the room. The offense did what it had to, rallied from 14 down in the fourth quarter, executed an onside kick, conjured a touchdown that put them up by a single point with less than a minute left. Joe Flacco, deputizing while the usual hero, Joe Burrow, rehabs a toe, found Andre Iosivas for the kind of throw that makes the crowd believe. The comeback was real. The roar was earned. You start to draft headlines about one of the great finishes in franchise memory. Then, 4 plays later, a rookie slices through the middle of the field, and the scoreboard flips again. Colston Loveland's 58-yard touchdown felt like a betrayal. It was the kind of play that makes coaches lose their calm on the sideline because it exposes something deeper than one blown coverage. It exposes a season-long rot. The stat line says 576 yards allowed. It says 15 missed tackles for 133 extra yards. It says 109 missed tackles on the season for 778 yards, the worst in the NFL. Those are numbers. But the sound of teammates cursing in the tunnel after the final whistle is the truth behind them. Listen to Jamar Chase walking off the field, speaking to himself and anyone who would listen. One fucking stop. It's not rhetorical. It's accusation and plea at once. The offense put the team in position to win. The defense had to do the one job that would seal it. It didn't. Fans call it collapse. Players call it a failure to finish. Somewhere between those two labels lies the simplest, angriest demand in sport. Do your job. Chase Brown's line, "Finish the fucking game, just end it," is less colorful but no less sharp. There's not even room for nuance. It's a single sentence with a single object, the defense's inability to close. You can almost see the team's psyche folding inward, a locker room still celebrating a comeback, but haunted by the knowledge that celebration was premature. That's what makes the loss worse than a standard defeat. It's the feeling of victory stolen from your hands while you still taste it. And it's not like the defense hasn't shown excellence this year. Early in the season, they carried the team. But defense is a muscle. It atrophies under pressure, and every missed tackle is a small tear. 15 missed tackles in one game is where those tears become a rip. Cole Bishop and other young pieces have fought. Rookies like Maxwell Hairston and others have filled in and flashed. Yet, for all the flashes, the ledger keeps filling with mistakes that cost more than yards. They cost games, confidence, and eventually the locker room calm you need to close out a comeback. How do we measure the damage tonight? The Bears finished with 576 yards. They pierced coverages. They found seams. Caleb Williams, the young quarterback who found Loveland for the game winner, put them into field-stretching plays at the exact moment Cincinnati needed to hold ground. Those 35 extra yards on the final play, they're not just inches. They're a monument to missed technique, poor tackling angles, and a defense that forgot how to finish. But this game isn't only about defensive failure. Joe Flacco's late-game engineering deserves a footnote in the narrative. He found Iosivas for a clutch touchdown, and they pulled the onside kickoff like a stage trick that worked at the worst possible time. The offense showed resilience. The special teams executed when asked. The problem wasn't the offense's will, it was the defense's ability to sustain one final stand. When your offense gives you the ball back with the lead, the margin for error reduces to a single stop. And tonight, that stop didn't happen. There's a brutal honesty to the way players express themselves after games like this. Chase's reluctance to get personal, "I'm going to stay in my lane," masks a fear of fracturing the locker room more than it hides his ire. He's upset at being scored upon, at being left exposed to defensive recrimination when he's done his part. That's the double-edged nature of internal accountability. It keeps teams honest, but it can also fray edges when it is not balanced by constructive correction. From a systems perspective, these missed tackles are a rot that starts in practice. You don't suddenly forget how to tackle on a Sunday. You lose form under fatigue, you lose discipline and alignment, you stop trusting your teammates to make the play you couldn't. The film room will be brutal. Coaches will look at angles and angles again, position footwork, shoulder placement, wrap-up technique. The personnel department will weigh whether missed tackles are a coaching problem, a schematic problem, or a personnel one. There are no simple fixes, only choices. Reinforce fundamentals, change technique, swap bodies, or lean harder on scheme to compensate. And then there's the psychological toll. This loss drops Cincinnati to 3-6, the kind of record that doesn't just hurt in the standings, but chips away at focus. A team that was once expected to compete now finds itself in a quiet, grinding battle against doubt. For young players and veterans alike, that sense of drift invites louder voices in the locker room, hot takes on social media, and long nights of questioning. Chase Brown's anger is a raw form of leadership, a demand for better. But it's also a fragile thing. If it turns inward and stays unresolved, it can corrode more than it energizes. Yet the human counterweight here is resilience. Players like Jamar Chase and Chase Brown care deeply enough to yell, to curse, to risk breaking the room because they believe. That anger is not nihilism, it's expectation misfiring. The question now is whether the team will turn that rawness into repair. Will coaches double down on tackling drills? Will film sessions become surgical about angles and technique? Will veterans step up in ways that quiet the locker room and rebuild trust? There's also context. Joe Burrow's absence matters. Flacco's effort was brave and necessary, but this franchise is built around a quarterback who sets the tone with presence as much as passing. Injuries, timing, and rhythm matter. When the centerpiece is missing, small problems become larger. The defense's breakdowns are magnified because everything else is trying to compensate. So what happens next? The answers are procedural and visceral. Procedural. Coaches will rework tackling technique, adjust alignments, and maybe shuffle personnel. Visceral. Leaders will have to hold a room together, not by glossing over mistakes, but by demanding accountability and delivering a plan to fix them. The latter is harder. Accountability without a path forward is just blame. A plan without accountability is just talk. If there's a final image that lingers, it's simple and ugly. Teammates in the tunnel, some still angry, some looking stunned, all of them aware that they squandered a comeback that should have felt like a rebirth. But the opposite image, the one no one wants to admit is still possible, is of the same players waking up tomorrow, hitting the film and starting the hard work of getting better. Sports are cruel. They're also mercilessly fair. A single bad play can ruin a night, but 1,000 small corrections can change a season. Finish the game. It's a command that can haunt a team or galvanize it. Tonight, it tasted like salt. The question now is what it will taste like in the days to come, vinegar or medicine.